diagrams in your notebook as well. Let me tell you what happened over time while these guys are coming in. I'm going to get some coffee to sit on.
That flopping sound is Kevin Cooley wearing Jesus shoes. That's Kevin Cooley wearing Jesus shoes.
Want to be more like him.
All right.
We're ready. Yes. Ministry Advantage take 3. Now, and the reason I do that, you know I do this.
I know, you
All
can
right.
keep finding.
There you
All
go.
right, so we want to pick up now with what we call the core process for ministry. Ministry advanced pastor, designing ministry. Let me just tell you some of the where we came from on this, and you'll feel that over time when we start to talk about the 7 practices, that there's a lot of nuts and bolts and pieces. You're not going to use everything we teach. Let me tell you, that's the good news. Number one, don't feel like you're going to use everything we teach. I think you will often go back to it. I think you will use a lot of the stuff we teach. Some of you definitely need to do that. So I'm not suggesting that you just use things. But we have, I think we have some tools that are relevant for you right at the moment, and some that I think you'll find yourself coming back to later. And so, but as you progress through Ministry Advantage, you'll find that there are some tools, again, a lot of moving pieces, and we realized in Ministry Advantage early on that people might start to feel kind of a little overwhelmed or need some hooks to hang this on. And so that was part of the discussion. And over time, we began to kind of frame Ministry Advantage under 4 big ideas. And that is what you see here: plan, train, execute, and review. And so if we were to say, what's the behaviors, what's the discipline of a good Ministry Advantage pastor? Can we say it that way? We really came down to the fact that what we want to do is we want to help pastors be really good planners. I mean, to be a world-class planner would be fine with me, but to be a really good planner or better at planning, proficient at learning to plan. And that sounds really easy. So, well, gee, what's it take to plan? We think actually that this is part of the issue, is that we don't have good training, most of us in church work, on what are the good disciplines around creating a good plan. And so what happens is if our plan is wrong, if our plan is not done in kind of the proper way, so to speak, then it's a little bit like having that old idea of a ladder leaning against the wrong wall. And there's nothing more debilitating to me personally, especially how I'm wired, to work really hard at something and to actually go, got it, completed it, goal accomplished. And what happened? Nothing. It didn't work, right? And what that usually means is not that you didn't work hard. It means that your ladder was on the wrong wall. You actually thought you were working on the right thing, but because of a lack of the proper planning process, you actually got off somewhere and started following the line of thinking. One of the illustrations I like to use about strategic planning and implementation and staying with the plan is that a lot of people, when they think in terms of missiles, and you think in terms of what are they called? Certain kind of missiles, right? What do we call it? Anybody know the word? No.
Surface to air.
No.
Surface to air.
Big missiles. Had to do with accuracy. Guidance. Thank you guys for helping me. Now, I can speak to this a little bit. I was in the Air Force right out of high school, and so they showed us films where if this was Muammar Gaddafi's house, and it was at one time, and he had a window right there, 2,000 miles away, that they could launch a missile from here. That's why I'm not an artist. And they could put that missile right in that window, and they did. Right? Now, most people think, without knowing it, that a guided missile, launches from here, takes off, and flies right straight in that guy's window. That's not how it works at all. If any of you know anything about this kind of stuff, a guided missile travels like this. and it winds up in the right place, right? Guys, this is exactly how it is to do strategic planning and implementation. And that's why it's not a one-time event and then you never look at it again. It's a guided process. It's learning how do you create a plan and then get the plan in the right place, make sure you're picking the right target, and then also then an implementation part of it, staying with it and achieving the proper goal. Missiles move like this because the terrain changes, the weather changes while it's traveling. There's all kinds of factors here. So the missile's constantly being affected by the environment, so is your church, right? So the idea that you're never, oh wait a minute, we got a plan, we're in the middle of our plan, we got a problem. Well, welcome to real life, right? So, but you don't give up your plan and you don't give up your goal and your objective, but you do have to, negotiate whatever that problem is creating in light of what it's doing to your plan. You don't change the plan, but you have to deal with the process of negotiating around it so that you ultimately do wind up at the goal you set out to do. So I like that idea of, to me it's very clear that that's what it is. So planning is a huge deal. Then training people, we talk a lot about executing the plan, which is this following this path right here, knowing how to do that, and then reviewing. So right now, let me give you a little added value thing here. I'm working on a book right now, and what the posters are after me. Honoring guys are tough, and I'm behind on it. But I'm writing a book right now called Step Up, and I was with a friend of mine, and I was talking about wanting to write this book and to kind of encapsulate all that we talk about typically in teaching Ministry Advantage. And a lot of the stuff that we talk about in a workshop like this is kind of it's not real. It's not the stuff that conferences are made of. I mean, it's not a good platform kind of talk, right? And so one of the things I wanted to do was to talk about. We have a friend living in the attic. Is that what it is? One of the things I wanted to do before that falls off.
Come over this way, so
Is I wanted to be able to talk about these four concepts in kind of what I'd say is a popular way, right? But in a way that's real. So I was talking to a friend of mine. He said, "Well, what are you trying to say? What do you want to say?" And he kind of just asked me this question at one point when we were kind of brainstorming. He said, "Well, what do you think pastors need?" And I said, "I know what pastors need." And he said, "Well, what is it?" I said, "I know it is. I hear it over lunch tables all the time. I've heard it for 15 years. Pastors are almost always asking the same question. How can I get more people to step up, take responsibility, serve, and lead in our church? I mean, how can I get people to do that? I don't have enough people helping out. How do you get people to engage? One way or another, that's what they're asking." And I've heard that. It was so funny that right after so he said, "Well, why don't you call the book Step Up?" I said, "There's an idea." So what kind of environment has to exist that causes people to step up and serve and reduces the number of people that step out and away from service, right? And I absolutely believe that there are that what we talk about in Ministry Advantage are the core ideas behind why that happens. And I don't think it's a mystery. I always said what we're trying to do is take lightning and put it in a bottle, basically, and simplify it. So let me just talk about this this way. And one is that I think there's these four environments that have to exist, right? And the first is that people have to be able to see it, okay? And by the way, if I see this in any of y'all's books anywhere, I'm going to tell God to go get you. So the first is that people have to be able to see it. Well, they have to be able to see what? Well, they have to be able to see the vision of the church, but that's not enough, right? It's not enough to be a good vision caster. And a lot of us as pastors, because we're trained to tell, right? When we kind of get excited about vision, we go tell them, man, we can talk about it all day long. But it's not enough for people to see the vision as you described. They have to be able to see themselves in it, right? That's a big difference, right? It's one thing for me to go, and this happens all the time. I get a call from pastors and they'll say, "Hey Russ, we had our public meeting, in Module 1 we talk about doing a popular version of your strategic plan. That's where you get it down to one page, and it's kind of fun to talk about it, and you go give the talk to the church. You don't give them all a gory detail, but time weeks and weeks and weeks and months of you guys working. Their eyes will roll back in their head, they'll fall over dead." But you go out with we call a popular version of the strategic plan, where you go out and say, look, we've worked through this for the last number of months. There's 3 or 4 things here we're going to do, and or there's 2 things we're going to work on over the next 3 years, and here they are. Here's what it's going to look like, feel like, that kind of thing. So I get a call, and sometimes pastors will call and say, we had our meeting, and we had it when I had the congregation there, and I laid out the vision for the church, and the vision, and everybody voted for the vision. Almost everybody said, yes, Pastor, we're for it, raise their hand. It was exciting. And most pastors feel like at that point that that's it, that's the hardest thing. If I can get that, if I can have that breakthrough, everything's downhill from there. And what they don't know is the exact opposite. Everything's uphill from there. All you get when people say yes is, that's good, Pastor, you seem real excited. Plus, as pastors, we know how to posture these things, right? So it sounds like if you love God, don't want to go to hell, then you better agree with the vision, right? So a lot of folks are sitting in church and they mean well, but they're just going, that all sounds cool and exciting to me. I'm for it. And then some people really are sitting there going, well, I don't know what you're talking about, but you seem excited, Pastor. You go for it. Right? And so they get the yes vote, right? So, but the problem is that they're not really seeing themselves in it. They're not really seeing that they're going to own this, that they're going to be involved in this. And so when it comes to vision casting, and when it comes to planning, we have to do planning and vision casting in such a way that people can really not only see the vision, but that it inspires them to say, I not only want to say yes, you go ahead and do it. I want to say yes, and I'm excited. I want to be a part of that, right? And so that requires good planning, number one. It requires planning that actually is connected to what the church needs, because people can kind of feel when there's a disconnect between what you want to do and what the church really needs. They can sense that. And some of us as leaders have to even sometimes step back, because when we go through the strategic planning process, what we realize is that the team and even the church as a whole is saying, no, look, you may feel, Pastor, you may feel like we need to do X, but if we don't fix this first, then that kind of doesn't make sense to us. And there are times where you have to kind of figure that out. Is it one of those times where you should push forward and kind of lead the church, or should you really step back and say, I'm not going to get the support I need from people if they don't own this. So a church where people step up is a church where people can see the vision, they can see themselves in it, they feel like it's not the pastor's dream, but it's our dream, and I'm part of it. Right? Now, there's a lot of pieces to making that happen, but I encourage you to think about these 4 things as environments, these 4 environments that have to exist, right? The next thing is that they have to be able to learn it, right? And what's learn it mean? Well, they have to be able to learn whatever it is that you're trying to vision cast to them. They have to be able to learn what you're calling them out to do. One of the great mistakes that we make in church work is we preach very passionate sermons, because we get ratcheted up. We've got to call people out to serve, and we do our best job. We do maybe some great talks, and then people line the aisles going, okay, Pastor, I give up, I'm in. I can't see one more crying child that needs to hear about Jesus and is not going to if I don't do it. I give up, okay, I'm going to use my gifts or abilities. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes on the positive, maybe they really truly do realize that they need to step up and serve, so they step out and they come to sign up. But the truth is that we basically are ready with a handshake. Thanks for jumping in. Go put your name over here on this piece of paper, and then nothing happens, right? Because we're either not ready to assimilate them truly, so we work backwards here, and we're going to squander our opportunity with their enthusiasm, or we are ready to put them in a place, but we're not really ready to train them well. Now, let me tell you how you know if this environment exists in your church. If it exists in your church, people will talk about it. Right? And here's the kind of stuff you'll hear. You'll hear people saying, listen, whatever you want to ever do in this church, trust me on this, they will train you to do it. I mean, they're great here. And you'll hear friends talking to friends, no, you ought to do that. Well, I don't know if I can do that. No, they'll train you. I'm telling you, they're great at that here. They'll train you to do it. I mean, they're going to walk you through it. They'll coach you. They'll shadow you. They have a training program. Listen, my way of thinking about this is, when I was in my senior year of high school, I decided I wanted to get out of town. I didn't want to go to college, but I didn't want to go then. Right? It's kind of like heaven. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to go right now. Okay? And so I knew I wanted to go to college, but I didn't want to go right now. And so I went down and I signed up for the Air Force in the middle of the year. I remember leaving the recruiter's office, and I remember being very excited about being signed up for the Air Force. And I remember the thing I was worried about the most was not the fact that I was going to be working on these massive aircraft that I really knew nothing about, or that I was going to move somewhere, or that I was going to, you know what I was worried about? I was worried they were going to cut off my hair. Because I had a lot of hair back then, and it was very long. And that was what I was worried about. You know what I wasn't, you know what I never remember one time worrying about? Was I going to be able to do the job? I never want, you know why? Because they showed me their training program. They said, you're going to work on these big, massive aircraft. I'm like, what do I know about that? No, let me show you our training program. We're going to send you to school here, and you're going to go through this, and you're going to go through that, and you're going to be under their team like this, and then when you get to your base, you're going to be like that. And they walked me through it, and I mean, by the time we got through it, it's like, well, I'm even as dumb as I am, I probably would be trained by then, you know. So I never worried about being trained. And let me tell you how you know it doesn't exist, is that people say, well, you hear a different kind of conversation in the church sometimes. And people, you might hear people say, or if you were to ask them, to say, I'll tell you this, I won't ever step up again. Because I stepped up, I volunteered to serve. And I'll tell you what, nobody talked to me, nobody trained me. I didn't know what I was doing. I felt like an idiot. I felt like I was doing a bad job. And I just didn't feel like I should be doing what I was doing, and I quit. You know, all the surveys still say, guys, most volunteers quit not because they're uncommitted. In fact, the byline of this book is that there is not a crisis of commitment in the church. And most pastors, if you ask them, and I don't set them up and say, do you think there's a crisis of commitment in the church? Yes. And there's not. There's not. It's a crisis of competence. People will never step up where they feel incompetent, and neither will you. If I took you out and you don't have any idea how to play golf, it'd be the worst day of your life for me to drag you around a golf cart, of course, and make you hit balls all day long. You'd be frustrated to death, right? And after a while, you go, I don't think I really want to play this. Not unless somebody can train me or teach me how to play this game. It's too frustrating. And this is what we do to volunteers all the time. We put them in places. We have no concern for whether they're competent, trained, how they feel, what they need to learn next, or any of that. None of that's going on. So what you hear is the opposite. You hear, I'll tell you this, I won't ever step up again because I didn't know what I was doing. And nobody taught me. I'm not getting in that situation again. And I don't blame you, right? Some of you, maybe if you think back about your secular involvement maybe as a kid or your non-church days, if you ever worked for a company that did that to you, put you into a spot, you remember like the parable of Bob that we saw earlier? That was a perfect example of it. He was plugging people in and not training them to do the job. He's taking 3 minutes and going, you do this, you do this, you do this. Oh, by the way, I got to go down the hall. See you, bye. Okay? So there has to be an environment where people, when they talk about it, go, this is a great place to serve. Trust me, they are going to train you before they let you do anything. Right? And then the other environment is that they have to be able to do it. Okay? This is the long-term doing it. This is really beyond the learning mode. This is, in some worlds, this is what we call execution. Okay? Now, this is not killing people. This is actually executing what it is. And it's interesting, in the corporate world, they've done a lot of surveying of companies. I think Franklin Covey has a study on this. And they did a lot of studies and asked people, of all of your strategic initiatives that failed, right? So they're talking about scores of these companies. Of all the initiatives that you had, plans that you had that failed, did they fail because of a lack of good planning, or did they fail because of execution? And 70% of the companies said they failed because of execution. Right? Now I think in the church we're weak on planning. I think the corporate world's better about planning. So that's why we teach planning on our side. But on both sides, guys, think great ministry ideas fail, not because it wasn't a great ministry idea. In fact, again, some of you had fantastic ministry ideas, but because of how you rolled it out, no one was really trained to do it well. And then how it was executed in the long run, and how people felt that they weren't supported over time. In the work world, what happens here is that people say, you'll hear people say, I'm going to quit this job because I just can't get any, what? I just can't get any support. They just don't care. Now, in the church world, most people who feel that way will rarely say it, right? Because the problem in the church world is that we have the God factor. And so it doesn't sound spiritual or nice or anything else to go, I'm going to quit this ministry because I don't feel like I'm supported very well here. I haven't seen the people that put me in, I haven't seen them in like a decade or something. You know, I don't think anybody knows I'm here doing what I'm doing. I'm not getting regular feedback. I don't know if I'm doing well, if I'm not doing well. I don't know how to know. They walk by, trust me on this, a lot of volunteers walk by their leaders, not just the pastor, but they walk by their leaders, and because there's not good communication about how they're doing, or they're doing a good job, how do they even know? They hold their breath when they walk by in the hallway. You don't realize this. A lot of people just hold their breath and they hope that you're not about to go, hey, by the way, I know you're working with those third graders. Could you do a better job on that? You really suck at that. Because they don't know. And they live, some of them live with this kind of very uncomfortable feeling. And eventually that's too much and they quit. And the reason volunteers quit ministry when they don't feel like they're supported in the longer term of doing it is that they got kind of a triple threat pressure, right? They have the pressure of the personal side is I don't feel like I don't know what I'm doing, so I don't like that feeling. I'm letting me down. I'm letting my supervisor down, or whoever's the head of the ministry, right? And then what's the third one? Who else am I letting down? Well, I'm letting my supervisor and my pastor down. I'm letting the staff of the church down. I'm letting my pastor down, and then I'm letting God down, right? This is how volunteers feel, and that becomes an overwhelming burden. And let me tell you what happens when people who don't feel that they're well trained and don't feel they're supported eventually quit ministry. And let me tell you that what some of them feel like they have to do. Some of them feel like they have to leave. Because they sit in your congregation, and if depending on the size and how easy it is to hide or not, and then you're giving a sincere sermon on God knows what, but they just feel like you're talking to them. And they feel guilty because they stepped out of ministry, and they hear stories about it, and then somebody makes an announcement, and go, we really need some help with the children's area. And they go, that's my area. It's terrible. You know, I mean, just think about it. If you were sitting in a room and you had resigned, and they keep talking about filling that hole, well, how would you feel? Would you keep coming to the same room and sitting through that every week after week and feeling bad about that? So guys, do you understand how important it is that whether it's paid staff, volunteers, or anybody, people, this vision environment, people being able to learn well, be competent, right? Equip the saints to do the ministry God's called and gifted them to do, and then support them in the process of doing it. And then the last one's a lot of fun. The last one is they have to enjoy it, right? So they have to celebrate it. And in the celebration part, that's where really evaluation goes on, but it's positive evaluation, right? That's where reviewing goes on. And certainly, and there's what we call a cadence or a rhythm to that. If you're going to do reviews, you have to do them consistently. If you're talking about volunteers, it has to be super simple, right? Very simple, not complex volunteer kind of thing. But there needs to be some kind of, maybe even not a review, but an encouragement session, right? Being smart about words you're using. But you know, with staff and others, obviously there needs to be a review system. But in that reviewing, what we're trying to do is, my belief about this is that in everything we're doing, it's a celebration time. We're going to celebrate what we've done that worked. That's easy. We're going to celebrate what we did that didn't work. Einstein said we know 1,000 ways not to do this. Okay. That's what we do. So we're going to celebrate the fact that it's not wasting time. We learned some good things, even things that didn't work, and we're going to learn to celebrate that. That's a mature attitude. Effort is worth celebrating, right? And so we're going to say, at least we tried, and we're going to keep trying until we find a better way. And so we're going to celebrate our successes and our failures and our learnings, but we're going to create a celebratory environment. We're going to celebrate our achievements. One of the things that happens a lot in our churches is that we go from one event and activity to the next one without any kind of real celebration of that. And so one of the things that I say is in our plan, train, again, the model that mirrors this is plan, train, execute, and review. Okay, you can see where our see it, learn it, do it, celebrate came from, right? And so right in here, at our church, I've taught this forever, and at our church, finally we realized that there's a piece missing here, and that it's the celebration piece. And so what we say now here in the book that I'm working on, I'm just combining review and celebration. But one of the things that we say in our church is that the event is not over until we celebrate it. Yeah, I heard that, a lot of huns. Because we don't think that way, do we? The event's over when it's over. It's over, that's it. Thank God, I'm going home. All right, but especially the significant type of events, where you have annual events and church events, and the summer has a lot of activities in it. You can figure out where those celebrations ought to be, but here's the deal. You won't create that environment if you don't put it on the calendar. Right? So if you're going to make a big push for Bible school during the summer or whatever, then when you're putting that on the calendar and say, what are the dates? Then right there, before you're not done calendaring until you go, and the celebration time is there. Now, I don't care how you celebrate. I don't care where you celebrate. I don't care if you do pizza and balloons. I don't care if you sit around hold hands and pray and thank God. I don't care how you celebrate. In fact, the best idea is get somebody who's good at it, right? Get somebody who's good at it and say, you're in charge of celebration for this event when it's over because you're really good at it, right? And so plan it and make sure that we do it. And then again, don't blow it up, right? Look, on the celebration side, guys, let me just tell you, I've got history with this because of my nature and how I work. So when I got to this celebration learning in terms of organizationally, it was hard for me. This was one of those catalytic things I had to do, right? Because I grew up with some of its personality and some of it is the value system I grew up with. And so I grew up with a value system that said it's time to work, it's time to get the job done, and we're going to work until it's done. And when it's done, after it's done, we can play, right? We can play. But that's how I grew up. Now, the way I grew up, of course, is the right way. And that's what we all think, right? So I thought that was the right way. And so when I started doing leadership stuff and I started engaging ministry and tasks and things, that's how I led my team. But work. Well, I got some people on there by personality that they want to play. And this is obviously a character flaw, right? That's how it works. We got to fix this character flaw. These people got to learn. You got to work, we'll play after it's over. And then I found out there were people that had a God-given personality to have fun all the time, even when they're working, and they can actually get work done and have fun at the same time. And then I actually realized this, guys, that it's not just to understand that about people. If that environment does not exist in an organization, if that doesn't exist in our churches, people will not want to step up and serve. Who wants to go where you don't have any fun? Right? This is the problem. We couldn't get rid of Brett Favre forever, right? NFL, the guys just having too much fun. I mean, you look at some of these athletes, you can't get rid of them because they're still having fun. Now they're making money too, but trust me, they're having fun or they wouldn't do it. When it gets to where it's no fun, they don't want to do it anymore, right? So he's just still having fun. He's going to big games. He's throwing the long ball. He's having a blast. Why quit? I can still do it. So same kind of thing, guys. Have you ever had anybody come up to you and go, Pastor, I love you and I love this church. And I want to tell you, by the way, we are having a blast over there, but I got to quit. You ever had that? I've never had anybody come. Now, I've had them come and go, it's really tough over there. And, yeah, all kind of, you get into blaming or just whatever, or sad song, story, whatever they got to tell you, but I got to quit. And the truth is, if you really look at it, there are not too many people having much fun over there. We're not modeling it for people. So guys, here's people sometimes say, well, how much do you think we ought to celebrate and how often and so forth? If you know this is something you ought to work on, here's my policy for you. Okay, here's my guide. Just do this for the next 2 years. Until further notice, celebrate everything possible. Okay? Just, how's that for clear? I don't care. Celebrate your sermon. Celebrate. I got it done! Celebrate Sunday. Celebrate uptick in the growth. Celebrate a downtick. At least you got rid of some bad people. I'm kidding, but just celebrate everything you can. Celebrate if you're making progress on something. Celebrate if you've been, If there has been an event in the church, camp, have the departments, make sure that, hold them accountable. Say, guys, you're not done. You can't go do the next thing until you celebrate. Now, I don't know how or where or when. I give money to, what money I can. I give money to departments to make sure that they celebrate. Some of them, sometimes I'll celebrate with a group by saying, sometimes I'm asked, sometimes I volunteer. And I'll just say, hey, your group did such a great job. I'd love to take them out for lunch after it's over. Okay, so I don't see me as a big deal, but people see the pastor as a big deal. And they just love that. So we go and we have pizza and it's on me or whatever. And just have some fun. Make sure you pat them on the back and then you at least have a moment in there where you say, guys, I just want to tell you, I know you're having more fun than you ought to, and you had a great, whatever event or whatever this was. But you're changing some lives. And I appreciate you. I'd love to pray for you. I mean, you guys, I can just tell you what that does. Do you think a lot of people are going to quit in that environment? Not a lot of people are going to quit in that environment. So that has to become part of it. So when people can see it, learn it, do it, and celebrate it, then you're going to find a lot more people stepping up and a lot fewer people wanting to step out of that. I mean, who wants to step out of that and go somewhere else? All right. So that's what we did with this. This is kind of the kind of nuts and bolts way that we've talked about this. This is the more popular version of it and the version that we're writing into the book. You'll notice that in the center here, we say plan, train, execute, review. Then I'm sure that you were asking in your mind, what? Plan what? Train what? Execute what? Okay? And so the answer is that we think basically everything in church work falls into these three categories. Now, no, you want to challenge that, but just trust me, if you think about this, we've been doing this a lot of years, and there's been a lot of people like you that want to challenge it. So everything falls into one of these three areas. Everything's either core identity, teams, or systems. So what does that mean? And how is that helpful? Because it means that every day that I'm going to the church and engaging my work, I'm thinking, okay, I'm either planning something today, or I'm training some people today, or I'm executing something that we're launching today, or I'm part of it, or we're reviewing and celebrating something today. So I'm going to see that. You understand that? We want one of the ways we want to help you is to give you at least some simple hooks to say, every day I'm either planning, training, executing, reviewing. And the truth is that on one day you could even be doing more than you probably are, doing more than one of those things. Right now I'm in the planning mode. Okay, so then this next part helps because it says planning what? And we think when it comes to planning, most planning comes around mission, vision, values, or framework. Everything under plan, train, execute, review comes either in a bucket, in one of these three buckets. It's either core identity, which is the direction of the church, mission, vision, values, and framework, or it's around teams, multiplying team model and the ministry handbook that we talk about, or it's a systems issue, either a church-wide, departmental, or an individual system. And so if I'm planning something, I'm either planning something that's related to the mission, direction, identity of the church, or I'm planning something that is team related, right? I'm planning with my team, or I'm planning, designing a team, or I'm planning something related to systems, or I'm training someone on core identity, teams, or systems. So those things may or may not help you, but we've found over the years that at least those give you some categories to kind of hang these things. All right, now you guys are okay. So any questions? Let's stop there and let's take any questions or things you want to kind of wrestle out from what we've talked about so far. You'd like this to be more interactive. Let's go back to this. Any questions about creating these environments? And I haven't written the whole book yet, so maybe I won't have an answer.
When's the book coming out?
That's what my publisher keeps asking. I don't know. As soon as I get it done. It's probably not coming out sooner than 6 months at the pace we're at. Something like that.
You mentioned that there's not a crisis of commitment. There's a crisis of competence.
Mm-hmm.
What should a pastor make out when you do training? You seem to get agreements, and then people just aren't showing up when they said they would, or calling at the last minute canceling. Because I gotta think it's more than just commitment, you know, but,
Yeah.
but what, how do you?
You know, I think, what's your name?
Kevin,
Kevin. Where are you, Kevin?
First Church of God in Freeport, Illinois, that's, west of Rockford.
Oh, yeah, okay, wow, you're way out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's 'cause of you, like-
here's what I think, Kevin. I think that, again, this comes back to leadership. You know, I think all things come back to leadership. So that's who you got on your fault.
Thanks, Dad.
Well, it's something, I'd rather put it this way, something that you can do something about,
Yeah.
right? Because it feels kind of helpless when you say that, right? Sounds that way. But I think you really can do something about that. And here's what I think's happening. I think that I'm a huge, huge believer in setting expectations, right? So, for example, I do a lot of capital campaigns for churches. Pastors inevitably want to stand in front of the congregation and go, all right, we've got, the guy here helping us raise the capital, we've got the building plan, and we just were with the architect, and we were just with the builder, and they just say we're going to be able to be in our new building by Christmas. They love to do that, right? And the only way that's going to happen is if everything happens perfectly, right? Which is never going to happen. So I've done projects for 25 years. So what I tell pastors is don't say that. And it kills them not to say that. They want to overcommit, right? They want to set expectations too high.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to your issue with this. So for example, I'll tell pastors, look, they say Christmas, you say February 1, right? Now one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to have a miracle project and it's all going to go great, and you are going to get in by Christmas. And about 3 or 4 weeks before Christmas, you're going to get to come to the church and say, you know what? A miracle's happened. We got all this, we got all our zoning, we got all our stuff done, the building's ready, and guys, we're going to get the whole Christmas service or Christmas Eve. Right? You're going to be a hero. But you go to your church all jazzed up and excited because you just can't delay the gratification of that and say, we're going to be in by Christmas, and then you go, guys, I got news for you. And this happened and that happened, and this happened and that. Well, all that to say, probably going to be February. Okay, now you're a loser, right? You had total control over that. All right, so expectations are powerful, powerful things. Set expectations, make them clear, lower them when you're in a situation like that. When you're talking about personnel in the situation you're at, it's an expectation issue in my part. When you recruit the people, now some people will still not, maybe not show up or whatever, but I'll tell you, I believe it'll change 90% of it. We just don't want to do this. But when you recruit somebody, you take the time to say, I'm really, what's your name? John. John and John. John, I really want you to be on the strategic planning team, right? Because I really think that you have the right background for it. So, will you be on the team? He may ask me a couple of questions. And I just tell him all the positive stuff. This is going to be great, John, the plan. And that's it. I just want to get him on the team. And so we're going to be Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock. Okay? And that's it. So, and that's pretty typical. What I should do with John is I say, John, I want you to be on the team. I think you're the right guy for the team. I think it'd be fantastic to have you with us. Now let me tell you something, John. This is going to take a lot of time. In fact, it's really important that you not only be there on time, but that you be able to commit to be there almost every week that we need. So I don't want you to be frustrated. I don't want you to be, because you're not in certain meetings. I don't want to be frustrated. So before you say yes to this, John, I really want you to know that you feel like you can be consistently there at 7 o'clock on Tuesday night. Now, you may have done some of that, Kevin. I don't know if you're that specific. But I have found that when I'm that specific with somebody and I clearly set the expectation that he is very likely to do it, right? So I walked into an office one day and this business about not blaming people, right? And I heard that the office staff was going like this, and they were kind of zooming around fixing some problem, right? And so I would kind of walk by, and then I kind of backed up, and then I kind of went in. And I said, "Hi, girls, what's going on?" And they tried to tell me something to distract me. And I said, "Well, no, I heard you guys talking about you. Sound like you're frustrated with something. What's going on?" And they said, "Well, we got a volunteer. She's a really good lady, but she's took over, taking care of preparing all this material that's supposed to be ready for Sunday. You know, the first week she was here on time, and it was great. And then the second week, she wasn't here. She came in like Friday, and then we had to pick it up. And then she came in Friday and said, "No, we've already done it." And she said, "Okay." And then the next week, she came in late again. And so we're just frustrated because we don't know if we can count on her or not. And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, let me ask you this." I said, "You guys think that does she not understand that you need her here and that this is important?" "Oh yeah, she understands." "What'd you tell her?" I said, "Tell me what you told her." So they rehearsed it with her. And I said, "Well, what you didn't say to her is that this is time sensitive. It needs to be done by Thursday or 2 o'clock. And then, by the way, the lady who we're very grateful is willing to volunteer some time. By the way, if you're not here at 2 o'clock on Thursday, we have to pick it up. And we don't have a plan to pick it up because we think you're going to do it. But if you're not here by Thursday at 2 o'clock, we're going to have to do it. We just want you to know that. Are you sure you can be consistent at this and do this? I mean, if you can't, it's okay. Or if you can only do it once a month, it's okay. Just let us know." But we want to be really clear about what this is time sensitive and has to be done. We don't have a plan B. You're plan A. And I saw these ladies doing this like this, looking down the floor. And I said, so I'm gathering you guys nobody's really explained that to her. And as they thought about it, they said, "No, really haven't." So again, the expectations weren't clear on the front end. We tend to kind of try to just be so glad people are saying yes that we don't want to press in a little more. But listen, would you rather be recruited to something? How about this, John? If I said, John, I got this strategic planning meeting, I gotta have some people on this thing. I don't know, I thought maybe you'd be interested. It's not a big deal. We're gonna have a bunch of people on the team probably. So would you like to do it? It's gonna be Thursday nights. Who wants to join a team like that, right? So don't be afraid to do that. Guys, tell people it's important because it is. It's about God's kingdom work. Tell them what it is. Tell them what you expect them to do. Tell them what the effect is if they don't come through for you, why they need to call ahead of time, and make them really important, because they are. And I find that many times they go, "Oh, I didn't really know that." Right? So sometimes we're not doing a whole job. Other than that, Kevin, then I'd say if you're doing that and you're still getting that kind of behavior, then I think you got to probably work a little more on the maturity level of the people that you're asking. And maybe try to identify that a little better and say, the problem is that I'm not recruiting people that are mature enough to do some of these things. Don't jump to that, because sometimes it's this other issue. And so it's okay to challenge folks. Any other questions about this kind of stuff? That's a good question. Okay. All right, so now guys, you guys are all, let me take you through the Ministry Advantage introduction here to our approach. So here's how we teach this stuff, guys. We have a comprehensive coaching approach to transform how pastors lead. And it's really 3 components: a personal coach, adaptable resources, and peer learning. Okay? And so that's what we've been doing for all these years. What we'll do is there's a form that you'll fill out that we'll talk about in just a minute to make sure we talk about that. Do they all have that?
Nope, right here.
Okay. So we'll hand these forms around. You please don't look deeply at them now. Just take it. And it's called a baseline questionnaire. And when you're coming into Ministry Advantage, we have to have that baseline questionnaire. Basically, it tells us how you feel about your church right now, what you hope to see happen, and it's related to engaging in Ministry Advantage. That document, that form there, we use that along with a personality assessment that we will send you electronically and have you take a leading from your strengths assessment. The assessment will take you 10 minutes to take it. When we get that form and your personality assessment in our office, we go to work on matching you with a coach. Okay? We've got a 21-step process. You wouldn't know that, wouldn't you? And so we match you with a coach. But we got to have a baseline questionnaire. You can scan that in, send it back to us electronically if you want. Can they get that electronically?
I could do that electronically. I had them return it to me though.
Sir, okay. We got to get it.
And then I'll get it to you.
That's fine, that's great. So send it back to whoever sends it to you, how about that?
Okay.
So, then he'll send us a copy of it, and then we'll match, because we'll use our coaches to train you guys, in this first.
I'm gonna use it to measure, at the end of the year too, so.
See where they started.
Yeah.
And others, okay? So that's the first one, how we get started personal coaching. We have the resources. Our resources are customizable, contextual, we want you to contextualize them. We are not about doing lockstep, we're not about you using our language. I certainly don't want you to go back to your churches as you're learning in this process and say, no, Ministry Advantage says, okay, because they don't know Ministry Advantage, and all that does, when you pull that stuff, it just irritates people. And secondly, it does not build your leadership, right? So my worship guy came to me one time, and he said, hey, I've got some people, I think they've lost sight of what we're supposed to be doing on the worship team. I think they don't understand our values. And I said, well, great, we'll go teach them the values. He said, well, I was kind of hoping you'd come and talk to them, tell them. And I said, well, look, David, I can do that, but and they probably would even respond to me. But let me tell you what that would do. That would lessen your credibility as a leader, right? So don't hide behind Ministry Advantage. What I've said all these years, guys, is if you learn something, right? If you just learn anything along the way, and you like it and you want to use it, then just step up and use it, right? Don't go tell your church, I learned this in Ministry Advantage, and here's what a system is, and here's all the pieces to it. Just go, work out the system with the team you're working with. Just, do the work and use the skill or the tool or whatever it is. And it'll be credit to your leadership ability. Methodology, pastors experience weekly telephone or Skype calls for about an hour a week on the phone. And it's an inbound call. Our coach calls you, right? Because this is part of the problem. You guys get busy and distracted, and we're going to help you not be distracted, at least for an hour a week. And our guys will tell you that in Ministry Advantage, right at first, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get a call tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And but listen, and really, please hear me on this. We're all pastors. It's pastors coaching pastors. You'll be matched with a pastor who's ahead of you in ministry and experience and so forth, and has been trained in our program. We have one coach that is not currently pastoring, and he's an exceptional coach, and somehow is able to keep his skills sharp. But for the most part, it's pastors. And so there are some of those unique people out there. Secondly, on the inbound phone call, it's friendly. It's what we call friendly accountability. Again, because we're all pastors, right? So you don't need another set of elders or ministry leaders or a council whacking you on the head. So you got plenty of people doing that for you already, probably, right? So we're not there to make life hard for you, but we are there to, in a friendly kind of way, create some consistency with you. We think you want that, but you never need to worry about whether your coach is going to call you and go, what the heck is wrong with you? Okay, that's not going to happen. I mean, our coaches, guys who coach for us, are doing it altruistically. They're doing it because they love the Lord, and because they love pastors and they feel called to do this, right? So they got a big heart for pastors. They and they are one. But I just want you to know they'll never be negative for you. Coaching sessions are designed to be highly interactive, not like a lot of this here where I'm kind of telling you what Ministry Advantage is about. It's all interactive. It's back and forth. It's a very personal relationship. The coach and the pastor really dictate where you go. Our program is not linear. It's not like step 1, step 2, module 1, module 2. And eventually we're going to drop that nomenclature. It's unfortunate that we did that. But the only thing that is number 1 is we always start with strategic planning, and that happens to be module 1. And that's because module 1 really helps you to create a roadmap for your church. And we don't believe that you can go someplace that you don't really have a map for. So how can our coach be effective at coaching you if he doesn't know where you're trying to go? So we always do strategic planning. And you can do strategic planning and another practice at the same time. And strategic planning in particular allows that, kind of lends itself to that, because strategic planning is, you're dealing with volunteers a lot of times, you're having evening meetings. It can be a slow process depending on your church, right? So you can actually work on more than one practice, like some people like to work on leading change or work on their organizational aspect or finances or teams or whatever it is, and you can do some of that work at the same time. You'll even do some work at times that's not ministry advantage related. Yes. So with the way we see our content is not that it's the Holy Bible or something, but we do see it like it's kind of a highway that really directs your coaching process. And you can get off, your coach knows about that, you can get off and your coach will have some life experiences and some learnings that may be particularly helpful to you. And so you guys may get off and do some of that, but then eventually we hope you'll come back to the highway and deal with the next practice or two. One of the great problems with personal coaching, and if any of you have ever had any personal coaching, hopefully it was good. If it wasn't a positive experience, a lot of times it breaks down because the coach runs out of content. They run out of things to talk about, so you just find yourself spinning your wheels or talking about the next book you read or something like that. And our content is so deep and it's so church related that if you ever feel like you're, running out of, you get toward the end of a module or working on, just read another module or just go on to the online coaching center and watch another training. You're gonna hear stuff and go, oh wow, there's a whole area right there that I need. Well, I still have a coach. I need to work on that, right? And so our coaching sessions are very interactive. Coaches utilize the resource modules to create outcomes for each church. Our material is written so that you read a little bit and then you do a task. And the task is built into the module, into the notebook. And it's a worksheet. It's an opportunity for you to sit with a team of people in your church, and you don't have to create all the worksheets. You can just use ours, or you can modify ours, or you can use your own. Each coaching session ends with an assignment, and that is true most of the time, but sometimes your assignments go on for more than 1 week. So because of the nature of it, if it's a really significant task you're working on, so you're not going to get it done in a week. So maybe 2 or 3 weeks working on one task. Well, let me just say up front, a lot of the questions that I normally get in this kind of deal is, well, and it's usually after you're in it for a while, or we'll come back to our next workshop, and you guys will go, how am I doing? Here's where we are. Compared to, how are they?